Hello everybody. Today we're going to fix the return line, the fuel return line. In the previous session we worked on the left wing. As you can see, we set the angle of incidence in the previous video. I can only do that with one wing at the same time because my workshop is just not big enough. And now we're going to remove the left wing because we set everything, put it back into the wing stand. And then we have to rearrange everything because else we can't work. So we have to drag the fuselage outside and rearrange the wing stand on the other side and clean up the stuff. So, and then of course get the fuselage back in so we can work on it. What we're going to do is with working on the wing right now, because the wings were actually done, but when I built the tank of the left wing tank, I installed a fuel return line. In the original plans that is not necessary, because if you have a natural aspirated or a carbureted engine, then you don't need a fuel return line because the carburetor fixes that problem. But in a modern injection engine, you need a return line. So when I built the tank, I thought, let's build a return line, because I wasn't sure what type of engine I would select, but well, the odds are that I would probably select a modern engine, so that would mean I need a return line. Now you can build two return lines, so one to the left wing, one to the right wing. That's of course more holes in tanks, and I don't like it. Also, you need a double type of fuel switch, right? You should not only switch the fuel line itself, but also the return line. Of course, the advantage is that if you consume fuel on one tank, you also return the fuel to that same tank. And if you put the return line on only one tank, then that would you can only the tank would fill up, right? If you would fly on the right tank and you have the return line on the left tank, then eventually you will just send all the fuel to the left tank. However, I thought I assumed that there wouldn't be a lot of fuel going back to the tank, which is of course typical ignorance of a software guy. So I thought, well, how much fuel would go back, right? I mean, if you go full out, probably nothing would go back. But of course, you never go. Many times you don't go full throttle. So turns out, actually, a lot of fuel gets back. And if you go idle, probably all of it. And that's about 120 liters per hour. So it's quite a lot. So the fuel return line I inserted in my tank was not big enough. The diameter is too small. I used the vent line diameter for that. Okay, in hindsight that was stupid, but yeah, well. So we need to fix that, and we do it right here. So there is a hole in the tank anyway. Well, actually that hole is used for this fuel level sender, which I also didn't use because I've got a flop tube in my left tank. A flop tube is, so normally you pick up fuel from the bottom of the tank, but of course if you go inverted for a long time, then the top of your tank will be the bottom of your tank, so then you won't get any fuel. So a flop tube is like a flexible tube, fuel pickup tube that will just go with gravity. So if you go inverted, it will just bend to the top of your tank, which is then the bottom, of course. I have only one tank because Van says you only need it in one tank. So my left tank has a flop tube. So if you do aerobatics, you should select the left tank, I guess. It's a checklist item. And because you have a flop tube, you cannot have the fuel sender right there. The fuel sender should be in the third compartment of the tank. I found that out, but I already drilled a hole, so that was stupid. turns out later that it's actually a good idea, because A, you can remove your return line, which is too small. So that's like stupid and stupid at the same time. And also it of course gives you the possibility to work on the flop tube if that might be needed, because a normal tube line would be just a aluminum tube, but the flop tube is more, let's say there's more in it, so you probably need to maintain it. So we used that hole. Unfortunately, we had to cut open a tank then, and we used that hole to, replace the return line. As you can see, we make extensive use of our endoscope. So the endoscope is a very simple endoscope. It's not a very expensive piece of equipment. It's just an endoscope made for a mobile phone. Unfortunately, it doesn't work on my mobile phone, but I have an very old PC, and I use it on that one. It just runs bare Linux with cheese on it, so yeah, I can use it with the endoscope, and it really works well. We have I've used it already a lot. I mean, both for riveting in places where you can't see, and drilling where you can see, like in the wings when we attach the wings to the fuselage. So I'm not saying it's essential, but it's really handy, especially if you fuck up with your tank. Then it's really good to have it. But even with the endoscope, there's a big hole because for the fuel sender, but still it's not very handy, especially because I didn't want the return line to end in the first compartment, which has the flop tube, because I'm not sure, but maybe the return line, it splashes fuel in there, right? So maybe there are air bubbles in there, or I don't know. I don't know anything about fuel, about liquids and stuff, but I just wanted to have it at least in the second, or maybe even in the third compartment, so far away from the flop tube pickup. Here I'm mixing the tank sealant. I still had some left from when building the tanks. So actually I only ordered 1 quart gallon of tank sealant, and with the hardener in there, and that's enough. You can build 2 tanks of it easily, and you still have enough sealant left for if you screw up something, and which I did. I do think you need to shelf it somewhere where it's cold. So I have a cellar, and it's 15 degrees Celsius, so probably 40 Fahrenheit, and yeah, that works. I mean, it's already there sitting for 3 years, and it still works great. So maybe if you have opened it, as I did right now, maybe then you cannot keep it for another 5 years, but for now it works okay. So we cleaned up the plate that was covering the hole in the tank, and now we reinstalling it with tank sealant. It's a really yucky stuff, and the problem is, of course, that I need to do the test again. I tested the tanks, filling it with water and then leaving it for a few days. You put paper under it so you can see if the paper gets wet, which it didn't in the first time. So now I have to redo that again, which is unfortunate, but yeah, at least now I have a great return line in there, so it can, yeah, it would really work. Another thing that I forgot, and that's why I need to remove the tank anyway. I mean, I have to remove it for the test, but also because the tank level sender, fuel level sender, is in another compartment. You need a wire in there. You don't need it on the other tank because you always have access to it because it's on the outside. But here it's of course against the spar, so I need to remove the tank anyway because, well, first I need to do the test, and secondly, I need to add the wire for the fuel tank sender. So it took me almost a complete day to fix this problem. It is unfortunate, but at least now it's fixed, and there's no real damage. Yeah, we continue building on the panel. As you can see, the holes are in there, and yeah, we can work on that. I can after the test I can put the wings into the wing stand again, and then I have enough room or working on the rest of the plane again. Okay, continuing building my pie in the sky.